Hey guys, it's Dennis here with Revog Games, and I'm joined by
Joshua Weyers, all the way in South Africa.
and we're this is our weekly games podcast. We talk about all the gaming news, gaming things that we've been up to. There's been some interesting news lately. Nothing like big, earth-shattering stuff, but there's been some, developments in other areas. I'd say let's start off with these are kind of like follow-ups to previous news things with both BluePoint Games. We had mentioned before that Sony was going to buy them, but they had not at that time. I don't think it was official. Now it's official. This is kind of coming on the heels of the announcement that the Demon Souls remake that BluePoint had worked on had sold 1.4 million copies. And so now this kind of deal with BluePoint had been finalized, but I guess the biggest news to come out of it was because they're kind of known for their remakes. They did the Shadow of Colossus remake on PS4, and they did the Demon Souls remake for PS5. Is that they're going to actually focus on original IP. They're going to do kind of an original game. So they didn't say what it was and when that would come out, but that was just like the original content. That's kind
That's
of
interesting.
what they want to do. My guess is they're probably going to have to do both. My guess is they're doing such a good job with these kind of remakes that maybe Sony will put more resources and money into them so they can kind of just expand out so that they can do both these remakes to satisfy what Sony wants, and then also building original content as well, which is probably what they most likely want to do. So that's just my guess. What do you think about this news?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Like, well, not weird. It makes sense because I think you're right. They're gonna do a bit of both, but it's one of those things where it's like I feel like they're being given the opportunity to do their own IP, which who knows? Maybe that's something that they've wanted to do for a very long time, but they haven't been able to because of obvious. Like, look, the Shadow of the Colossus remake was amazing in comparison. Like that was an amazing remaster. I haven't been able to touch the Demon Souls remake yet, but that looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know it looks fantastic. I haven't been able to touch it, but from friends who have played it, they say it's pretty damn amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're definitely successful in that. Both of those games are kind of like these. Well, they're okay. Demon Souls is an open world, but they're both third person. You know what I mean? So we can kind of establish off of that whatever IP they're working on most likely is going to be in third person because that's their strong point based off of the two past games they've done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not too sure what it's going to be. I think it's probably going to be their own action RPG. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Action RPG, third person.
I mean, that's
Probably
kind of what
based
they've been
somewhere in
doing.
fantasy. Yeah, both of the games have been based in fantasy. You know, I don't think they're going to make something as hard as Dark Souls, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Not to take Shadow of the Colossus lightly. That's not like it's not a difficult game, but it's not an easy game either. You know what I mean? Like you do have to you have to put through with quite a lot. A lot of it's tedious. But yeah, I think that they're going to find a nice middle ground, work on something. But the issue is moving forward. Obviously, they were acquired for remakes, even though
Yeah.
Sony's not saying that. That's probably what they're going to be doing. The question is, what remakes could we see in the future from them that hasn't already been done? You know,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of Sony IP, games that would be great to remake, I think of are the Jack and Daxter series, but this is not for this studio. That would be for the studio that did Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. The remakes for that. It'd be better for that. So yeah, I mean it's good news. I'm glad Sony's acquiring some studios. You know,
I mean,
like
there's
I don't
a
want them to be.
studio.
I don't want them to fall behind. You know,
Well, it's a
I mean they're
studio
falling
race.
behind.
There's a studio race
Yeah.
going on right now, with between Sony and Microsoft.
And
Which,
it's I think there were rumors of more acquisitions going on as well since this one in particular.
yeah, I mean, well, this one isn't a rumor. Is that a studio that a studio that Sony bought another studio, which is Fire Sprite Games, bought Fabrique Games, who had worked on this game called The Persistence. It's a horror shooter game, and so yeah, it's just another case of just Sony kind of expanding their studio base, which is, like I always keep saying, this exclusive stuff to studios are great for each platform, like for Sony and for Xbox. Not great for gamers, having to split, like, if you really like this game franchise or this developer, and then suddenly they're exclusive to one platform, and maybe you don't have that platform. Maybe you can't afford to have both. Most people cannot afford to have both systems, Yeah. So it's just one of the things where it's like it's unfortunate, but it's part of the business. It's part of the where everything's going, And I also mentioned this many times before. It's not just the gaming industry. This is talk about movies and television and streaming services. Everyone, even audiobooks, people that are having their exclusives, they're making things so that you can only get certain things on certain platforms, and this is just another example of that. But Sony has to do it to compete against what Microsoft and Xbox are doing.
It's absolutely necessary. I will say it's a good move on Sony's half to do this, because whatever games this studio does moving forward in the future, it's very much in that like Sony atmosphere. It's very like, even though the two games that they've done are remakes, they're very like Sony games, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Well, Sony has kind of nailed the third person
story
action
RPG
adventure RPG, right? Where Xbox
nailed that, really. Yeah.
The Xbox is the first person shooter / RPG, action
Especially
RPG.
now that they've acquired
Bethesda. Yeah.
They got a lot of first person stuff,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to fit very well in their just in their like lineup of studios that they have moving forward. I think it's going to work well with Sony, and it's good for the studio too. I mean, if Xbox had acquired them, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. I just think that they would work better with Sony.
Yeah, they already have that working relationship and whatnot. So, all right, next thing up, we got Marvel's Avengers is coming to Xbox Game Pass, which makes total sense.
I've been playing, by the way.
It makes total sense because the game was not as well received as they wanted it to be. It did not sell the way they wanted it to be. The post game kind of marketplace that they thought they were going to make the money from was not thriving the way they wanted it to be. And what's the best way to get a higher installed base that people don't have to invest a lot of money into, right? I mean, that's the whole thing with Game Pass.
It worked for Outriders.
Yeah,
like Outriders, like this, the developers were like, "This is amazing." They've got a much larger player base than they were expecting because of Game Pass.
Yeah, so it coming to Game Pass makes a lot of sense, especially given where they're at. It's been a year.
I will say I don't think it's going to save the game.
I don't think so either, but it may prolong the longevity of it. Yeah. That's a possibility.
True. I can actually say that like with full honesty now, because I've actually been able to play the game like properly, whereas previously I didn't have much experience playing the game.
Did you play the single player or the multiplayer?
I did a bit of both. I think I was pretty late to the game because I know I didn't get a copy. You guys, everybody at the studio, you guys you played it on stream together. I just never had a copy. I'm currently about to finish the single player. There's like 4 single player. They're not single. The other 3 aren't single player, but you can do them single player if you want. The stories, right? There's the main story, which I'm busy playing now, which I love. The story is actually really good.
Yeah,
in my opinion, I really like the story.
The single player, especially the beginning of the game and the very end of the game, are very, very good. And it's actually, I wish they had done more of that. It's the multiplayer that's just kind of. It's
I haven't even touched multiplayer yet, Dennis.
Okay.
But playing single player, just the combat alone, combat alone in single player makes me go, I do not want to play multiplayer. There's
the problem.
I have no plans. I have no plans for playing multiplayer in this game, Dennis. Literally, it's one of those things where I'm playing the game right now and I'm actually kind of rushing through the story because I want to delete the game because it takes up a lot of space. It's like almost 100 gigs. And I'm right now, I'm like rushing the story just to delete the game to have more space on my SSD. But I am enjoying it. I will say that I'm enjoying it. But it's one of those things where every now and then when I'm playing it, I'm wondering to myself, would I have preferred this more as like a YouTube compilation movie or something, Like I ask myself that all the time. It is enjoyable though, but yeah, playing through the main storyline, it's made me think like if the combat is the same for
Yes.
multiplayer, why that I wouldn't play it? It's trash. Like the actual mechanics are just really basic. It reminds me of like a PlayStation 2 game. Like the actual mechanics, like it looks cool, it feels cool, like the fluidity, but in terms of like how big your combos go and stuff like that, and like all you can do, there's not that much. You know what I mean? It's very like it doesn't have a lot of depth.
Yeah.
So I don't think
No.
it's gonna save the game. But I hope that like I don't know. I hope they make some money because I feel bad for them. You
Yeah.
know,
They,
I
they
do
did
feel
invest a
bad for
lot of
them.
time and money, and then remember people complained about the graphics at one point. They went back,
Mm.
they definitely improved the graphics.
Well, I'm playing the game now after all the fixes, and I will say this: I've encountered no bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I know people were encountering a lot of bugs, and I know people like even a couple months ago, I was watching a YouTube video of like a year later, some guy's review. He did like a year later review, and he said, "I'm playing the game again now, and it still has the same bugs." I encountered zero bugs so far, but like I said, it's an issue of like the combat's not good. It's not
It's
bad. It's just
no,
not good.
it's all right. It's later in the single player game. It gets a little more fun with what you can do, but that does not carry over to the multiplayer because it towards the end of the game you kind of get more variety in the type of enemies that you fight, and especially the bosses and mini bosses.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of more cooler things to do, but that does not carry over to multiplayer. The
I am
problem.
looking forward to the Black Panther expansion though,
Mhm.
which like I said, I'm rushing my way through, so eventually I'll get through it all because it's like a 120 gigs or 123 gigs it takes up, I think.
Yes.
Well, no, I think it takes up less than that, but the install base was like 120 something. It takes up about 80 gigs, but still, that's
Crazy.
precious space that I would like back.
Yeah, that's a lot. All right, let's move on to this
Oh,
one. What's
actually,
up? Go
just
ahead.
because it kind of ties in,
Oh yeah,
they
yeah.
also just added Scarlet Nexus to Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
They did that on Friday, I believe, because of the Tokyo Game Show. There was the Square Enix one and the Xbox Game Show as well. But yeah, it's a great game, JRPG. It also just came to Game Pass, which I'm glad about because I don't think look the game sold well. I just think the game could have sold better because it's not a masterpiece, but as far as like those JRPG hack and slash games go, it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty good. It's not as good as Tales of Arise, which came
Mm-hmm.
out recently. I think a week ago I said I was playing it. That is one of the better games I've played in a very long time. I do highly recommend that. But yeah, if you have Game Pass, definitely check out Scarlet Nexus.
Cool. All right, let's move on to this one. This one's going to be short just because they released the first picture from Last of Us for the HBO series. It's a behind the back shot, so you're not seeing Pedro Pascal's face. You're not seeing, Bella Ramsey's Ellie or Pedro Pascal's Joel. You're just seeing kind of the back of them. And honestly, when they put it out, I thought it was from the game. You know what I mean? Like, I saw it.
I
And
don't think I don't have the picture.
Here,
I
let me
think
let me send
no.
it to you right now. Do you have it?
Okay, yeah, I have seen this. I was gonna say
Yeah.
I think I saw it before because it kind of went semi-viral. Yeah,
Yeah. Doesn't it look like just a screenshot from the game?
like like they do. Yeah, the background looks super real to me, but
Yeah.
like the foredrop, like just them and like the even like the plants up close, it looks like a game kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, they captured the kind of the style of their clothing
I like
and
that.
whatnot. So from that part, it looks like it. But like
Oh wow.
that all doesn't always say that the series or movie is going to be good if it's like accurate. I mean, people get stuck out on that a lot. Obviously, you don't want to go too
Well,
crazy.
I'm glad it's not gloomy as hell. I thought like honestly, I thought that just because I just in my mind I just pictured them putting like a horrible vignette on this. You know what I mean? Like before seeing this still, I just pictured that the TV series was gonna come out and it was
Mhm.
just gonna look dark and gloomy. Almost like the DC cinematic universe. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That like darker, almost like lacking of color. And there's a lot more color than I was expecting. So I was like, this is it's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, the reason I like that is because that means that the gore will look more gory usually in that case.
Yeah. So I'm
It
looking.
shines through a lot more.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that it's one stays true, but at the same time is different. you don't need to see a repeat,
I
right?
think
Like,
it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be good. Like
yeah, I think it's
just
gonna be good too.
whether it's like accurate to the story, I don't know, but I think it like what I think it'll be good. I think the acting will be good. I think it's gonna be shot very well. Whether it's gonna piss off fans or not, I don't know. But in terms of it being in terms of a TV series, I think it's gonna be good.
I
You know?
hope certain things get changed. I mean, that's people say that they don't want that, but it's like, really, when you watch the thing, do you want it exactly the same? Anyone who's read The Walking Dead and watched the TV series, yes, there's some similar things that happen, but there's a lot different stuff, Like, you don't want a carbon copy. I didn't read the Game of Thrones book, so I don't know how different it is from the
Yeah.
TV series, but it's from what I heard, it's different enough. I think the main things still happen. It's just how they get there and the different characters and whatnot. So yeah,
I think that they were smart, and this kind of relates because there's been a lot of talk about Cowboy Bebop, and it's going to become because they just dropped the trailer, I believe, for
it wasn't a
Cowboy Bebop,
trailer.
which is-
It was the intro. It was like the
yeah,
opening sequence.
That's what I mean, yeah. And it was, in my opinion, a little like slow in terms of like the movements, the way it was cutting in, but it was beautiful because it was very like it had the essence of the actual intro from the anime. But I think it was a couple weeks before that dropped, they did say they were like, because people were complaining. They said, listen, you got Ein, you got the Corgi, you cast the Corgi, but you didn't cast Ed, who is like a human being who has like at least this, I would say, holds the same value as this Corgi. Why is she not in it? And then they said, oh no, you'll see her or them or they. I think Ed is non-binary. I'm not too sure. Later on, and they're like, there'll be a surprise. But I was like, but the fact that there's no casting for it leads me to be. I was worried. A lot of people were worried because of the breakdowns for the castings. So I think the director or the producer came out and said, listen, we're not giving you a carbon copy of the anime. We are giving you the closest thing that we can in the form of TV. You know what I mean? So I think like also the show is going to be like they're not going to be putting in everything. A good example is there's an episode where they literally take mushrooms and trip. That's not going to be an episode in the Netflix show. You know what I mean? They're going to cut that episode. A lot of episodes from the anime got cut. So they're like they're just trying to nail the essence of it, and I think that's what they're also trying to do with The Last of Us here. They're trying to nail the essence.
Yeah, which is the
Whether
most
they
important
nail-
part.
Exactly. They might like. I think they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna nail the story, but they're gonna nail whatever story that they're doing. You know.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it, I guess.
All right, our next two topics are kind of two games that we've been playing. Let's start off with the first one is New World, which I've only played about an hour's worth, but you've kind of gotten hooked on it. It's been kind of, it's been very popular. People have been very happy with it, though servers have been kind of overloaded and people haven't been able to get on. Now they've done a little cap on creating new characters because there's just too many. So they're disabling it to prevent overpopulation on servers. So yeah.
Well, it's because it was on launch the first 2 or 3 days, you would create a character, play for about 8 hours if you got hooked. You know what I mean? That was me. Then you would come back a couple hours later to carry on, or the next day, and then you'd be met with this 30,000 like people in queue message, and you'd sit there for hours trying to get in. Whereas you could just find an empty server, start a new character, and just play immediately. So you had people just jumping from. You had a lot of Americans jumping to EU servers, and EU servers jumping to like people were hopping around all over the place. And a lot of people were saying like, why is it that Amazon, who owns like the biggest server farm in the world, is having server issues?
AWS.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is hilarious in its own right, but the memes have been hilarious. Like it's also unfortunate. That's so stupid that people do this. But anyways, it's been getting review bombed on Steam. It currently has mixed reviews on Steam because of the queue times, but the game's great. It's just it's not like it sucks that you can't get into the game, but the game is good. Don't go and review bomb the game. Just 'cause
people
you
review
can't get
bomb
into
stuff
it.
for anything. People review bomb if someone that worked on the game said something they didn't like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
it's absurd. But the point is, that was like the first couple days. I've been play. It's been about a week. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't I haven't waited in the queue in the past 3 or 4 days that I played the game. I haven't waited in the queue once.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just not an issue anymore.
So,
It was the first couple days. I don't know. They've never it's because they never put out a statement saying, "Oh, we're working on a fix or anything," as far as I know. But it's just working now. Like I've never had to wait in a queue, and I'm
okay.
playing and I'm having a great time.
Yeah. To further ask you another question is because I've only played about an hour and it's fine. I haven't gotten it far enough in it to be like I
Mm.
like it or I
I think you're
don't
still at the
like it.
tutorial campsite, I think. Or like, well,
Probably.
yeah, you're at
Yeah.
that first campsite
I'm just
tutorial
running
kind of.
around like killing, ghost
Mm.
sailors and trying to up my skill. I think I'm level 5 or something like that. Trying to
Yeah.
upgrade my equipment and whatnot. So I haven't really gotten into, I guess, the fun part, which that's what I want to ask you. What makes it so addicting? What makes it so fun that everyone is kind of
I mean,
all up on it?
I haven't even gotten to like the real fun part of it, which is the whole 50v50 faction wars.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you join a faction, you're having these like epic 50 against 50 people wars, and some
Mm-hmm.
people are doing PvP, and some people are gathering materials to help the fight, and some people are fighting NPCs to help the fight. I haven't leveled up high enough to join one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But those are going to be fun. But I will say the reason I find the game addictive, and I spoke to a friend about this who is also kind of like, I wouldn't say like addiction is a strong word. We're really enjoying the game. I
Mm-hmm.
have a friend who's also really enjoying the game, and he doesn't really consider himself a gamer. Like he's not the kind of guy that's like, oh, I gotta get the new console, gotta play the games. He doesn't really have an interest. He just randomly piqued his interest. He got the game, and he can't stop playing it. And I
Mm-hmm.
spoke to him about it, and I said, like, what is it for you? Because if for me, it's the fact that there's always something to do. It doesn't matter where you are. You see a tree, you can chop it down. You see a rock, you can mine it. There's always things to do near you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And for him, he said it's the same thing. It's like, I think he got up to level 20. Well, I think from level 8 to level 20, he was basically a merchant. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't do any combat. He just went around collecting resources, farming resources, crafting things, selling things, buying other materials, and like he loved it. You know, he was basically just playing the economy. He was basically a merchant, which is great. And I like that. The game kind of lets you do whatever you want to do. I will say, I think I messaged you this before. Once you unlock PvP, the game just kind of automatically puts you in PvP.
Mm-hmm.
And PvP is fun. You know, when you see someone, you're like, yeah, I want to go fight him. But the thing with PvP is if anybody can just join in at any point in time with PvP. So when you're choosing factions, you want to look around you because you'll see the symbols above the players' heads. If you have friends that you want to play with, you have to choose the same faction as them if you want to be if you ever in the future want to do missions together with them, you have to choose the same faction.
And didn't you say factions you can only change every 120 days?
Yeah, you can change it every 120 days, which is like that's pretty long, you know what I mean? So
Okay.
you're gonna want to make sure you choose right the first time, you know?
You're gonna have to send me your faction. I'm not at that point yet, but send me what faction
Yeah.
you're
Well,
joining.
I have two characters. I am joined the I've already forgotten. Well, the one is the Marauders. I've
Mm-hmm.
joined the Marauders, and then I joined the Holy Temple.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I joined the Holy Temple is because they just get their loot is just I think gold and white, and I like that theme better. The only difference between factions in terms of your loot is the color, I think, and like some faction rare loot. But other than that, there's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
The factions are there because the game needs some kind of war.
Uh-huh.
You need conflict for the game to work.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But yeah, you can toggle PvP on and off, which I didn't know. Once I figured that out, my life was so much easier because I was like, hey, I'm just trying to like
Mine
collect
some
some
stuff.
I'm just trying to mine some like ore, and then like I have like 5 people rock up, and they're like, "Hey, it's that guy who believes in God," because I'm part of the Holy Church, and it's just these marauders, and they just start beating me. And it's like, even if they're lower level than me, what am I gonna do against 5 people? Like, you get ganged up, you know what I mean? It's that's what I like about the game too. It has those like real world implications where it's like, yeah, if you're alone in an alleyway and you're part of a gang and you see a rival gang, you're gonna get shanked, bro. It's just how it is. It is fun though. I enjoy the crafting mechanic the most, which I think is where you left off. It's about to tell you to go and like harvest wood, and it's about to get you into the whole crafting aspect of the game.
Cool.
It's funny because games like these usually they get me going through loot. Like the loot has to look cool, and the end game loot looks cool, but like compared to other MMOs, it's really average. So for once in a game, I'm not driven by looking cool or loot. I'm just driven by having fun, like and learning techniques and like what weapon suits you best and how you play it. You know.
So this game right now is PC only. Are you using the mouse and keyboard, or are you using controller? Because
you kind of have to. You have to. Like I tried key binding it to
controller.
Controller. It's just it doesn't work.
I think
you can move around and look around, but half your interactions you can't do.
Man, I don't know what to do because so I've been playing with mouse and keyboard, but it's kind of.
It'll definitely have controller support soon. It's just obviously not there right now.
I'm gonna have to wait.
Like, if you plug in your controller, because I had to use like a third-party app to like keybind to the controller. I used a whole separate thing to do key bindings. But if you plug it in without like a third-party application, it does pick up the controller.
It didn't for mine.
And looking around.
Didn't for mine.
I used the Xbox One controller.
So did I.
It it didn't register, but I'm saying I could move. Like I could look and I could move.
I couldn't do anything.
None of the other literally none of the other buttons worked.
Yeah, I couldn't
do anything. The fact that it at least picked up the joysticks means that I'm guessing that they are like they know that they would make bank if they can get this on console. So they're definitely working towards getting it to work on, because I don't see why it wouldn't work. The gameplay mechanics are set up in a way where it's not like most MMOs, you have a hotbar of like 20 or 30 freaking buttons to click, you know what I mean? With this, there's really not much. You have like 3 buttons for combat, 3 or 4 buttons for combat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very easy to map out onto a controller. I guess it just wasn't a priority for them on launch, which is weird. It's really weird. That's the first thing I did, Dennis, was I started the game up with the controller in my hand, assuming I could.
Yeah, so did I. I tried, and honestly, I'm gonna have to wait for the controller support because, I do a lot of editing, so my wrist, my mouse wrist, is pretty worn down, and even playing that like an hour would really kind of wore on my hand, which my hand is already being used for editing and whatnot, and a lot of Photoshop, Premiere, all that stuff. So it's just not. For me, it's better to use a controller in that regard, and so I think I'm gonna have to hold off until they get the controllers.
The game has more melee combat than ranged combat, and the melee combat really would work better with a controller. I would say it would work better. It's just it would be more comfortable for a lot more people,
Yeah. So
in terms of like the range stuff, you get them. But you're level 5 now. If you ever hop into the game again, I think you'll see you just unlocked your second weapon slot, so you'll be able to switch between 2 weapons now.
I think I did,
which is very handy because you can do combos. Like I specialize in using a sword and shield as my main weapon, and then my second weapon is an ice gauntlet, and one of the attacks is I can shoot out like an ice golem thing that will actually be there for a while and shoot other enemies, and then I switch back to my knife and I fight the enemies with this little ice golem thing that I summoned.
Interesting.
Which is quite cool. There's like cool ways for you to combo them together.
The
game's just fun. And
how's exploration? Because that's kind of like a big thing for me in games. It's like I need to see new places and cool new places, not just like dirt. I don't want like dirt all just.
Well, then you're gonna love this. The one thing I hate about this game is, as far as I can tell, there's no mounts, and it's like. Look, imagine Red Dead Redemption without a horse, man. It would be painful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of what this game feels like at times, where it's like, because even fast traveling is expensive. Like you got to unlock the fast travel point. You got to spend the money on it. There's a lot of walking. But like I said, the good news is that wherever you are, you can always do something, so that it's not too boring. The game looks beautiful. You can walk around. You can have like a nice sense of exploration when you walk around. The map's not like massive compared to other MMOs, but they're built in a way where it's like there's constantly like you're constantly fighting with your factions for possession of land and like fighting each other. Like there's like faction wars. So it makes sense for it to be on a smaller piece of land so that you can actually have war.
Run into people.
If it's like, the World of Warcraft map is huge. Like you wouldn't be able to have a 50 like you can't have like big battles on it unless you have servers that can hold millions of people on the same server, you know what I mean?
Now you mentioned the environments were beautiful or whatnot. Like, I particularly haven't found the graphics to be very impressive. Like, my character graphics and animations.
It's impressive for an MMORPG, is
Okay.
the thing. In terms of games, it's like, yeah, it's very average.
Yeah.
Very average. But in terms of MMORPG, well, look, Final Fantasy, it looks pretty, but it's one of those things where it's like, there's not a lot of textures in Final Fantasy. Everything's very smooth and glossy, you know what I mean? You look at, like, if you look, a good example is if you look at World of Warcraft, even right now, the game doesn't look like a game that would be out in 2021, you know what I mean? Yet it is. It's not very populated right now because of obvious reasons going on in their offices, but yeah, it looks really good for an MMORPG is the thing. And there have been other MMORPGs that have looked better, but when you have things like being able, because you got to keep in mind, you're able to harvest materials in this game. That already changes it. Like, you got to think of like survival games. A lot of survival games can't have really good graphics because of there's so much resources on the maps already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every single tree can be harvested. Every single rock can be mined. So with all that in consideration, I say they did a really good job with it. Like, the landscapes are nice. They're not like jaw-droppingly beautiful, but they're like, it's like nice enough to go for a hike every now and then. You do get bored of it eventually because everything does kind of have that same like palette or feeling or atmosphere, if you will. I will say that's the one thing the game's missing is it, like any other MMO, you go to like every area is like completely freaking different. You know what I mean? Like go like off the top of my head, I can't think of anything, so I'm gonna use really bad examples. But in most like big open world MMO games, it's like there's like a blue woods, and then there's the red swamps, and everything's just very different. Whereas with this, it's all just kind of woods and fields. You know what I mean? And hills and mountains, which are beautiful. But yeah, the aesthetic is nice though. I will say that. The game's good, but it needs more. The game did just come out, but it's one of those things where the game they need to start working on bonus content like soon, because I can see people are grinding this game. People are gonna run out of content already, so they're gonna have to start. Especially a lot of people already maxed out during the beta. For the people who did play the beta, you know, who just stayed in and played it. So some people are worried about endgame, but I think that this game's gonna do well for a long time. I don't think it's going to be the top MMO for a very long time, but I think that this game has the potential to crawl its way up to being that #1 played MMO. Will it be bigger than Fortnite one day? I don't know. Probably not.
I doubt it.
It's not action packed and quick, and
and also visually, it doesn't
know?
have that pop. It doesn't have that kind of cool factor, right? Like,
it doesn't have the accessibility as well.
yeah, you're not like, oh man, like this is, you know, kind of what kids are, you know, kids not gonna care about your Magellan Explorer. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
riding ships or whatever.
I was going to mention it at the end of this video, but I'm looking forward to looking into it next week because I'm going to go back to streaming every Monday and Friday. I'm going back to like a proper stream schedule because if I stream every now and then, it doesn't matter because people don't know when I'm live or not. If I don't have a schedule, then it doesn't matter. So I'm going back to a schedule for streaming next week, mainly because New World has a streamer mode where you can link your Twitch account. So as you're walking around, people can be like, "Oh, this guy's streaming," and they can follow you. And what's nice as well is that if you're like if you're a bigger streamer, or even if you're a smaller streamer, you can have your all the people that are subscribed to you, all the people that are followed to you, they show up in the game, and you can invite them personally. So you can have a whole army of just your subscribers with you in the game to go and do other stuff, which is really cool. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. However, I do think that right off the bat, I haven't even used it, but they need to, if this is something that they haven't already put into the game, they should put it in the game, which is that I think that they should only allow people who are in your faction to see your Twitch ID. Because if it's a rival faction, they can just stream snipe you. You know what I mean? They can just go to your stream and be like, "Oh, this guy's hiding here behind this tree. I'm gonna go and mess up his day."
Yeah.
So hopefully they thought ahead. I don't think that they did, but hopefully that's something that they address in the future. But yeah, I enjoy it. And look, I got regional pricing, Dennis. I don't know how much is the game for you?
Let me take a look.
Is it, if it's anything more than $30, I'm gonna be baffled or blown away. I paid like 25, maybe $27 for it.
I want to say 40, but Let me double check.
I think it is 40 in America. I think
50.
it is 40.
50.
50.
Oh, for
Yeah,
deluxe edition. Standard
okay, I was
edition
about to
is
say.
40. Standard is 40.
Okay.
Deluxe is 50.
Damn. Gotta love regional pricing. I basically paid like $25 for it. It was fantastic. Actually, yeah, no, yeah, just I paid about like, actually no, I think I paid about like $21 for it. But yeah, well, I guess I'd say for even for $40, I would say get it. If it's the kind of game, if you've been interested and you haven't been ready to take the plunge, but you've been looking at the game and you've been thinking maybe I'll enjoy it, maybe I won't enjoy it. I would say I think you will find something in this game that you will enjoy. You just gotta play through the first 10 levels to open up the whole world, and you'll find something in the game that you'll enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put some more time into it. To, at this point, it's too early. I haven't decided whether I like the game or not, and how good it is. I will wait, but I do need that controller. I mean, the mouse.
I think it'll come soon, Dennis, because it can't be that difficult. You know what I mean? It really can't. Like, I'm sure that there are better ways. Like I tried and I didn't do it very well. Like, give it like 2 weeks and someone's gonna find a way to like keybind a controller to it properly. You know what I mean? And you'll find a tutorial and you can do that. Because truthfully, the game should be able to be played on a controller. You know, I get that there's a lot to do, but there's so many ways to work out a subsystem on a controller now. Like in terms of like combos.
Yeah.
If Final Fantasy 14, which has one of those big ass hotbars, is able to work on console, then so can this game. I don't see why it doesn't.
All right, let's move on to the next game that we've been playing, which isn't out yet, but it went into its second preview test flight this past weekend. Halo Infinite. Man, I'm having a blast with the game, and I haven't even played it that much, but just from what I've played so far, like, it just reminds me of like old school Halo, like Halo 1, 2, and 3 back in those days,
Which is crazy because I played, like I said, I have more experience playing Halo 4 and like Halo 4 and 5, and because of that, this game feels so different. It felt very different from Halo 4. I was like, what? This is. And then I had friends telling me, they're like, no, this is like OG Halo. I was like, this is what Halo is supposed to be?
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I haven't been this excited for a new Halo since Halo 3. Like Reach was good, but I didn't love it as much as other people did. ODST I had a good time with. And then 4 was like, okay, I was kind of getting repetitive. I mean, they did add some new stuff in 4. In 5, I just didn't even play, as a Halo fan. I wasn't even that interested. But like this game is kind of hitting all the right notes for me. I'm a person who plays the campaign and then I hop into multiplayer. But with this previous multiplayer only, and it's just the feel of it. The feel of it is very smooth.
The grapple hook, amazing. I love it. You know what I mean? If at any point in time you feel like you're not moving around quick enough, just grapple hook something. Just fling yourself. You know what I mean?
But it's good that it's a limited, item, right? That you're just not like grappling hook everywhere. There's a lot of limits to
there's a cooldown, yeah.
Yeah, and just fighting against enemies, it just feels, I don't know. It just brought me back to old times of like hooking up 4 Xboxes for a LAN party and having 4 different TVs and you know what I mean? Having people play. You know
what I think I enjoyed most about playing this is that, like, well, it's a double-edged sword, really, but it's like it takes forever to kill somebody, but in turn it takes forever to get killed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I love about it.
You get shot, you're not like instantly dead. You gotta get shot a lot to die. You know what I mean? But it's like I kind of like that. It makes it feel like it lasts, like the trades when you're shooting between people. The trade-offs just feel like they last longer. You know what I mean?
It's like a firefight.
So many games where it's exactly. I've been playing so many games where it's like I'm so sick of battle royales because it's one of those things where you get into the game, you die, and you got to reload everything. You got to like hop into a new game, all that. With Halo, even with Call of Duty, you know what I mean? You die, you respawn, you're back in the game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of abilities going around, and you can jump and you jump pretty freaking high in this game. So there's a lot of like aerial combat, you know what I mean? And FPS games don't have aerial combat, you know? So that's what I like about this. This is interesting.
Yeah, this is what I love. That's why I've always said, like, all these other games, they're fun, but they're just not totally in my wheelhouse in terms of like multiplayer. Like, I like playing, like I said, Call of Duty single player and whatnot, but every time I go in multiplayer, one, I suck, and two, it's just not my vibe, right? I'm just not the pop out, bam, 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 okay, you're dead. Pop out, bam, 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 you're dead. You know what I mean? Like, this,
yeah, you can just get sniped and then you gotta load. Yeah, I know.
Or you encounter someone, you get shot, you die. You know, like, this is like, you encounter someone, you get hit. You know, you got a choice, right? Do you want to fight back? Do you want to kind of hide away? Do you know the map?
Throw down a shield in front of you?
Yeah. Do you know the map enough for a way to get around to cut them off? To, you know what I mean? To flank them? To, you know, there's all kinds of decisions you can make. And with the physics engine in there, it makes for some interesting battles. I mean, the sticky grenade alone causes a lot of chaos, you know. So yeah, I just been having a blast with it, and it's performed pretty well on you know, you and me have the same PC setup. So I have not played it on Xbox yet. Though the funny thing is, I was hearing that actually the Xbox performance is actually better than PC performance in terms of frame rates.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I think it's just one thing that's
controller. I was playing between controller and mouse and keyboard, and I was definitely playing better on a mouse and keyboard, but I was enjoying it more on a controller. Like using your utilities, you know, like your grenade, your grappling hook, those kinds of things, they feel a bit better on controller than they do on mouse and keyboard. But man, how fun! Like there were moments where every time I had an issue with the game, it was very small, and then I reminded myself, this is gonna come out and be free.
Yeah.
This is like what, like, so who cares? Who cares if you got a small little tiny issue with, you don't like the way this one gun fires? Who cares? It's free. You didn't spend money on it, you know?
Yeah. So
it's gonna be free when it comes out. Yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah, and Battle Royale is something that's been speculated. People did some data mining, said they saw something like that. That's possible, but really, the Battle Royale is not where Halo, you know, lives and breathes.
I mean, I'll play it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like but the only reason I'll play it is because it's going to be built into the launcher, and it's going to be accessible as a game mode.
Yeah.
The reason why I think the Battle Royale genre, besides Fortnite and like the top dogs, you know, besides the top dogs, the reason why you're not getting new Battle Royales that are topping the market anymore is because it's just kind of it's run its phase, you know. People are tired of it. It's like I said, it's unless you're really good at that game, you're gonna hop into that. You're gonna spend like 5 or 6 minutes loading that game, hop in, die the first minute, and then spend 6 minutes, 8 minutes loading into a different game. You know, it doesn't work. But it would work well in the sense of if it was a game mode. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I like about this. If it does have a battle royale, it's all in the same launcher, Dennis.
It's fine.
It's gonna be all. I don't have to like open up a.
You don't have to play it.
Halo, the battle royale.
You don't have to play it.
Exactly. You don't have to play it. Yeah. It's not going to be on a different launcher. It's not going to be its own separate thing. Like, that's what I like. I like that. You know, that's also why I feel like Call of Duty Warzone, which is super popular, I feel like it would be even more popular if Call of Duty Warzone had just had a couple other game modes to choose from besides being a battle royale. You know, it has that giant map. If they could like just lock down certain parts of it for smaller little team deathmatches, it could be its own. It could be its whole own Call of Duty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the new maps in Halo Infinite are great. Hopefully, they bring back some of the classics.
I only played one because it's one of those. Well, any like shooter game, it's one of those games where I did want to try all the maps, but at the same time, you want to learn a map.
Yes,
you know what I mean. You want to, like, if I kept hopping in, I would have had a horrible time if I was hopping into a new. And there's so many maps. There's so many maps. And I would have a horrible time if I was hopping into new maps all the time, trying to learn stuff. So I just played one map over and over and over again. I learned my angles, found my little corners where I like to hide when I get scared, and then I had a great time.
Yeah, so I'm super excited for Halo Infinite, which is weird because it was about a year and a half ago when they released that one trailer and people were just like, very ho-hum about it. Like, it didn't look that great visually and it didn't look that exciting gameplay wise. But then, they delayed it, and the more stuff we're seeing, and now that we're actually playing it, it's like, wow, this is really cool. It's like the same but different, and I hope when it comes to this kind of free to play games that it makes a dent in the marketplace, because I think it deserves so. And it's also
it will,
and it's
Look,
different
I
too.
think
It's different
it's
than
gonna
what.
make money, man. It's going to here's the thing, because it's free to play, people will play it.
Mhm.
People will play this game. It's going to have a large player base, right off the bat. You know what I mean? It's going to be popular. I don't know whether it's going to be super popular in the long run. That's purely up to the studio. But it's going to have its fan base. People are going to play it right off the bat. It's going to have a battle pass. They're going to make money, because it's one of those things where people are going to play the game because it's free and they're going to have fun, and they're going to be like, oh man, I want to look like a freaking unicorn, which give them 6 months and there's probably going to be a unicorn skin or something, it's going to do well. Oddly enough, while I was playing it, every single time I was like kicking ass in the game, I was actually getting excited for the single player. Because I was like, I can't wait for this, but with a story.
The only problem is the co-op. The co-op is not at launch. That's the only problem.
I mean, that's all right for me. Because I'm gonna binge it anyways. Because for me, Halo needs to be a couch co-op thing. I think it'd be cool if I can play online if we played the story mode online together. That'd be cool. But it's not going to be the same as like sitting on a couch.
Of course. Co-op is always the best, but online co-op is second best. It's better than.
I agree. It's better than no co-op.
Yeah. But yeah, it's weird to be excited for Halo. This excited for Halo again. It's like the early 2000s for me. Like all right, this is finally come back around again.
Yeah, and then we got Back for Blood coming out soon as well.
Yes,
it's starting to feel like we got all these remakes. It's starting to feel like the 2000s again, Dennis.
Yeah.
We're getting that feel.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next one. This one was interesting. So the voice actor Christopher Judge, who voices Kratos in God of War. He tweeted out that God of War Ragnarok was delayed because of him, and he like asked people to like kind of forgive him that because he was really sick. He had to have back surgery, knee surgery, and they said the studio waited for him, and they didn't ever pressure him. They didn't ever force him to do stuff that he didn't want to do. But in that way, it did end up delaying the game, and surprisingly and thankfully, maybe because of the way that he did it, people were very, very responsive and very kind and sympathetic to him. You know what I mean? Versus then the toxicity of like the fan base that happens sometimes when like things get delayed, or I mean, remember when it got delayed and some people were going after Alana Pierce, who yes is part of the Santa Monica studio, but it's not like to think that she's the one who's causing the delays. Like it's kind of crazy or whatever.
That was so out there, man. That was crazy. You know what? He didn't have to do this.
No.
Like I will say that's what I think is the nicest thing about this is that he didn't have to do this. Whether he felt obligated to or not, who knows? But it's a nice thing. It's a nice thing to come forward and be like, hey, well, it's nice to keep people in the loop, Like I think that's also why people aren't like mad. It's because they know what's going on. They're in the loop. It's not rumors. It's not people being sneaky and being like, oh, we're the delays because of this. It's like, no, the delays because of this. We're being transparent. This is what happened. Yeah. So it's admirable. I like that.
Mm-hmm. A little tidbit. Also in this, he revealed that he when he heard the director Corey Barlog wouldn't be directing the sequel and that Eric Williams was going to take his place, that he quit, but Barlog convinced him, don't quit. Eric Williams is a beast, like
a mother effing beast.
Yeah. So that's a little interesting side note to this story. But I'm just glad that the response was much more positive than what we normally get out of this stuff. The next topic. This should be really quick. Is Medal of Honor Above and Beyond is coming to Oculus Quest 2 this year. Actually, they said fall. There's like actually a trailer that came out.
Are they making any improvements to it, or just?
Well, no. I mean, the thing is, they're just porting it because before it was PC only. It was an exclusive on PC.
Oh, was it not on the
VR.
Quest?
No, it was
Did you have
not.
to use the link? You had to
Yeah,
use the
you had to
cable?
use the link. I never played it because
Oh.
I found it a bit pricey for, especially you got kind of mixed reviews.
Well, didn't you get to try it out?
I
at
did.
Facebook
and-
Connect a couple
yes,
years ago.
Yes, I played it at Facebook Connect, and it was actually a lot of fun. And at that time, I had asked them, or a lot of people had asked them, "Hey, is this coming out on Quest?" And they said, "No, it's PC VR only, but who knows in the future?" Well, the future is now. And it's also noted that it's a Quest 2 exclusive, much like Resident Evil 4 VR is, because the Quest 2 is a lot more powerful than the first Quest. They're kind of trying to phase out the Quest 1, to be honest. To them, they're like, the Quest 1 was great. It got people in the door and whatnot, but it just wasn't up to snuff in terms of what they wanted. So everything, they're kind of focused on the Quest 2 now. And yeah, I'm interested to see. I don't know what the pricing is. They don't have a release date yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I'll get it on the Quest instead of the PC, even though I know the PC has better graphics. But there's just always something to be said of a wireless experience. So,
Yeah. Well, it's just immersive.
Yeah.
Hands down, way more immersive than a wired connection.
Yeah. This next one I brought up because I just thought it was very interesting, especially because I'm acquaintances with one of these guys. Is Night School Studio, the creators of Oxenfree and Night School, and I forgot the other game that just came out. Anyways, they were purchased by Netflix. Which was,
Sorry about that.
a surprise to me. They're currently working on Oxenfree 2, but Netflix purchased them, which is great. Adam Hines, one of the co-founders, is someone I had met through a mutual friend many years ago. And at that time, he was creating his own comic books, and he was just writing and yeah, and then he started this company with, if I can't remember correctly, his cousin, and they started this company together, and now it's it's crazy. It's been picked up by Netflix. Have you played any of the Night School Studio games?
No, I actually haven't heard of these before. I was gonna ask. Well, I see Oxenfree 2 is going to be coming out on the Switch and PC later this year.
Yeah.
Do you think that, well, actually, it's not even a think. I'm guessing that this is because they want them to start developing mobile games for their subscription service.
Probably.
Their gaming subscription service.
Because the type of games they make are not, they're very story driven. They're dialogue driven. It's an indie studio. It's a very much an interactive story type of experience. So it doesn't require, even though the games look very good, they're not graphic intensive, right? They have like with Adam's background, it has a very comic book graphic novel look to it.
Yeah, looking at the screenshots, I was like, I could see how you could do something in terms of I could see how you could do that on mobile.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
this is probably the first of many acquisitions. You know what I mean? This is most likely the first of many. We're going to see a lot more in the future. Either it's going to be a lot more, or it's just going to be one or two big ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. I think that's all I have on my list. I know you have a few things that you saw on the radar.
Didn't you? You sent me this article about Valve working on another.
Oh yes, I accidentally skipped that. You're right. That was actually supposed to happen. I was supposed to talk about that before Medal of Honor. Anyways, it's a rumor though. It's a rumor that Valve is working on their own standalone VR headset, similar to the Quest and the Quest 2. It's interesting because they just announced the Steam Deck, which is coming out fairly soon.
I don't see why they would. if like unless this is coming from like a credible or like semi-credible source as a rumor, I don't see why they would. You know, like why try to compete with Quest right now? You have like if someone's gonna go for a high-end VR headset, they're gonna go and get the Valve Index because
Yeah.
that is the best high-end headset you're gonna get. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And then we already know that Valve patented their their next headset, which they're planning to have that whole brain reading thing. And like the
Mm-hmm.
patent looks crazy. Like it looks like the headset encompasses your skull and it like
Mm-hmm.
reads the levels of your brain or whatever. I don't know how it works specifically, but they're getting to the that's their end goal. But they also know that that's not going to happen like in the next 10, 20 years. That's like a much later on kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing that they're working on. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see why they would. You know, I don't see why they would do this, Dennis. I don't think they would. You know, I don't like why compete with the Quest 2? You
Mm-hmm.
know, like if anything, logically speaking, if they were gonna do something like headset related or like VR, well, related to their VR headset, it would be to either come up with a cheaper. They might like come up with a cheaper index one day, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or like try to get the price cut on the try to make the price more affordable. Because at the end of the day, they develop the index themselves. Like it's manufactured in America
Mm-hmm.
by by themselves by Valve. They're not like outsourcing it to a different warehouse or something. So hopefully they can find a way to like make the headset cheaper or something in the future. But I don't see why they would come up with a standalone VR headset. Like it'd be cool, but I just don't see why they would try to compete.
Yeah, it's a little tough because what Oculus did, much like how we talk about Sony and Microsoft, and now even that last thing we talk about with Netflix is Oculus bought the company that made Beat Saber. They bought the company that made
Yeah.
Population One because they want these exclusive to their platforms. You can't, because there have been kind of some copycat type of standalone VR headsets starting to come out, and they know there's going to be competition. Well, what's the best way to kind of eliminate the competition? They can't do anything to destroy the other competition's hardware. What if someone comes out with hardware that's like just way better, right? Well,
Yeah.
the only thing they can do is make software that is now exclusive to their platform. So,
Yeah. Or on the flip side, like you said, what if somebody comes out with a cheaper headset? Not that's not nearly as good as the Quest 2, but it's more than good enough to play Beat Saber.
yeah.
You know, well now obviously they can't, but you know, I'm saying like they avoided that, which is cool
Yeah.
because Beat Saber doesn't need too much to be able to run. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's besides the motion tracking, but it's such an addictive game. So it makes sense why they would do that. It's another reason why I don't see why Valve. Look, Valve will never be shy of games. Of course, there'll always be games. They'll always have
Mm-hmm.
developers wanting to make games for their headset or their launcher, you know, or Steam or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, wherever this rumor is based from, it's most likely based on their future headset that they're probably want to release in like 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
The one that reads our brain waves, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
trippy one.
Yeah.
Either that or like I said, it's going to be an Index 2.0 or a cheaper Index.
All right. Yeah. So that's it on my side. What do you got going on?
Let's see here. This was just kind of funny. This came up in my news a while ago. I thought I'd save it just because it's funny. But Nintendo reportedly it provided 4K capable dev kits, even though there's no Switch Pro. There's no 4K Switch.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave out a 4K capable dev kit, but there's never gonna be a 4K Switch. So it's like I don't know if that's just them being super optimistic. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Um, but yeah, that's just funny. What a troll. You trying to get your lights going?
Yeah. Just
There
it's
we
so
go. So
funny
you're a bit darker. You're
when
looking
the
much brighter
cloud.
now.
Yeah, it's tough because it's like during the whatchamacallit, the sun's not quite consistent here. There's clouds and keeps changing. First it's too bright, then it's whatever, and for some reason the auto ISO is not working that well for me. So, anyways, yeah, that's funny that they did that. Probably threw people off. Like, oh, they're gonna get 4K. Oh, not really.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, well, we all thought that that's what was. We thought we were gonna get a Switch Pro, but then we got an OLED. You know, with a slightly bigger screen and like maybe half an hour more battery life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the other bit of news I have comes from sorry, English. I swear to
Mm-hmm.
God, I speak it. A data analyst called Millie A. And the reason why, well, it's a trusted source. They've mentioned like several other things that were going to happen, and then they did happen. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
trusted source. Sorry about that. But basically, Konami is reportedly working on Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Silent Hill games. To be more specific, the report says that Konami is planning remasters of the original Metal Gear Solid games for
Hmm.
new consoles, as well as a potential full remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Many have speculated the remake specialist BluePoint would work on it, but VGC's source says it's being handled by a Singaporean studio, Virtuous,
Hmm.
which recently did the Switch port for Dark Souls Remastered for the Switch. Um, but yeah, so that's quite interesting. We're getting a bunch of remasters and then a potential full-on remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, which like that will do quite well. I was never the biggest fan of the Metal Gear Solid series. It's stealth games aren't really for me. I mean, I love the Assassin's Creed series, but that's because you don't have to be stealth. Well, in the earlier games you had to, but in the newer games you don't have to be stealth except for certain missions. Um, so yeah, that's quite interesting. Um,
Yeah, it makes
so
sense. I
yeah.
mean, it's like remakes and remasters are like, not saying it's like cheap to do, but relatively cheap to make some money, because you've already got the ingredients there.
Yeah, this is what I'm kind of more excited about. They're doing a reimagining of Castlevania.
Hmm.
Um, which there's been a reimagining of Castlevania before. I don't know if you know this, but Castlevania was once a third-person action RPG game instead of like that 2D like proper Castlevania type game. They went like third-person action RPG. Well, not action RPG, but like action adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it was on the PS3 or 4. I'm not too sure. But yeah, they're doing a reimagining of Castlevania, whatever that means. Yeah, not too sure what that's going to be, but that was a bit of exciting news there. Let's see. Yeah, the Square Enix showcase. Um, we got a release date for the Final Fantasy Origin game, the one that's like very Dark Souls inspired.
Mm-hmm.
Stranger of Paradise. We're getting a demo, and we got the release date. The release date is going to be March 18, 2022. Not too sure when the demo is going to be out, but there will be a demo available. And then they didn't really show off that much about it. But the most exciting thing to look forward to is the fact that we have the release date. Um, a new RPG dungeon encounter is revealed as well. I don't really understand. There's a couple other smaller things, but that's like the one that's stood out to me the most. Also, there is a trailer for Final Fantasy VII, The First Soldier, which I'm also really excited about. They're really, I mean, we spoke about this a couple months ago, but they're really putting all their eggs into this Final Fantasy VII game. They're doing so much for the Final Fantasy VII. Well, not the game itself, but like the IP. They're doing so much for this IP. Like, there's gonna be in the future we're gonna have so much Final Fantasy VII stuff, which is either gonna be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not too sure. I just hope it doesn't like become too much to the point where like. I'd rather they do less and do better. You know what I mean? I'd rather they focus on quality than quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, let's see what else do we have. Yeah, Monster Hunter Rise, which I've been playing on the Switch, is coming to Steam in January. Um, Monster Hunter Rise is also doing a crossover with where I had it here. I
Uh,
mentioned it to you earlier because I think it's so funny.
Ghouls and Goblins, or
Ghouls and Goblins, yeah, it's doing
Ghosts and Goblins. Sorry.
Ghosts and Goblins. There we go.
Yeah, I
There's a
remember that
crossover
old
where
school game.
they basically put that guy into the game, which I think is hilarious. It looks great. There's a 30th anniversary Sonic the Hedgehog collaboration announced. Um, but yeah, the biggest takeaway from that was that Monster Hunter Rise is coming to PC. I don't know if it's going to be with enhanced graphics or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to assume so. Yeah, because I mean they mentioned in the trailer 4K resolution, which this obviously the Switch doesn't even the Switch is 720, I believe. It's not even full HD, I think, the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so that's exciting news. I think that might be all I have. Let me just double check here. Um, yeah, yeah, that's about it really.
All right,
That's all I
cool.
got.
Cool. What's your kind of gaming plans for this week? You're gonna hop on some more New
Uh,
World.
I'm actually taking a break this week.
Okay.
I'm headed like literally in a couple of like maybe 8 hours from now. I'm going on like a bit of a road trip. Gonna
Nice.
go see my folks. Take like a 4 day break and just away from technology. No, so I'll off social media and stuff like that. But I'm glad you asked because I think I said in the beginning of this, starting next week, I'm gonna go back to a proper streaming schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been considering this for a while because I have a lot of friends who are streamers and I play with them almost every single day just because look, if if you're playing video games every single day, you're gonna end up either playing with kids or streamers, one of the
Mm-hmm.
two. You know what I mean? And I'm preferably gonna want to make friends with the streamers. So I have a lot of friends who have been asking me like, hey, mainly because they can hear I have a good quality mic and I use that for voice acting. I do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of voice acting. And they said, "Where do you stream? Are you gonna get back into streaming?" And I've been avoiding it for like a long time. And then I think it was today somebody asked in the Revog
Mm-hmm.
Discord. They were like, "Hey, I looked up Josh's Twitch and it's no longer there." That's because a few days ago I just recently changed the name because I've been getting a lot of voice acting work, which is good,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want anything tied to my name.
I
I don't
see.
want any potential employer to be able to look up my name and then see Twitch clips of me screaming at kids in Fortnite. You know what I mean? That's not what I want. So I have worked on the name. Uh, it's Thespis, but
Mm-hmm.
I will on by the next podcast or possibly even before that, I will drop the details in the Revog Discord about my new channel because I still have my old channel, but I've nuked all the content on it because I don't want any clips like that. I said moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
uh, at least not anything with my like real life name attached to it. So I'm going to be starting over. Look forward to that. And I'm going to be a lot more active on social media. I'm going to be coming back to Twitter, um, as well as going back to doing TikToks religiously. But it's all going to be under it's Thespis. I was trying to get Thespis, but that was already taken. So it's
Mm-hmm.
Thespis.
Cool.
But yeah, my plans will be to stream a lot of New World and mainly Valorant and New World. I'll be streaming a lot of those. Um, I'm gonna be taking a different all day every day. I actually want to get back into. I might even do it this week because it's on Game Pass. I'm just gonna play it on the laptop, but I kind of want to finish the new Psychonauts game that came out a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna finish that up, um, and then yeah, hopefully finish Marvel so I can delete it. If I can finish the Avengers, that'd be great, just so I can delete the game. Um, but yeah, those are my plans.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna play. I'm gonna wait on controller support for New World before I get back
Hmm.
into it. In the meantime, I'm probably gonna play some more Halo Infinite. I still have Sable that I want to play some more.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
forgot. I played more of that. Really relaxing game.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
really.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely relaxing.
It's
Uh,
well, I wouldn't say it's not. It's like it's relaxing, but it's not as relaxing as the other games in that kind of genre, like Journey.
mhm.
Like it's relaxing, but it keeps you like you're invested. Like there are some games like where it's so relaxing that I could fall asleep. This is not, Sable is not one of those games. You know, it keeps you invested.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about it. You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero or Instagram Dennis.tzng. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/Revog. Also, follow us on Twitter at Revog Games. Also, subscribe to this podcast feed, which is on Spotify and Anchor.fm. And Josh, where can people find you?
Join our Discord server,
Oh, yeah.
first of
Oh,
all.
yes. Yeah.
Uh, and then I will be dropping the details in the Discord server. But moving forward, you guys can. Well, actually, yeah. The account's live right now, but I haven't put any pictures up. But it's Thespis on Twitch, And I think on Twitter I'm still Josh.Toki. I think I'm
Mm-hmm.
still Josh.Toki on Twitter. But I'm going to be changing all the names and stuff. But if you guys are interested, just keep an eye on the Discord server. I will drop the details in there. And please give us a follow on Spotify.
Cool. All right. Until next time. We'll see you guys later.
Later.